Good morning, mortgage and real estate world. Happy Tuesday to you. And we are here live with another edition of Coffee with Todd. It's a great honor today to have one of our senior certified coaches, Matt Harrison, with us. And it is awesome to have one of Matt's superstar students, Shanne Sleder, with us. And we're excited about the next 35 minutes and talking about what Shanne has done to really elevate not only his use of high trust in the marketplace, but most importantly, his own personal satisfaction and growth as he has become more and more successful following the process. So Shanne and Matt, great to have you guys with us.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off. So Shanne and I were just kind of goofing around with this, and I didn't know this, but he was 22 years old when he got into the business, and I guess that was about 18 years ago, right, Shanne?
That's correct.
And you had a degree in molecular biology. And if there's any proof that we don't grow up thinking we're going to get into the mortgage business, we get a degree in a science and then we become a mortgage professional. This is one of those pieces of proof, right?
That's correct. That was not my goal to begin with.
I love it. And your family was in the mortgage business. Your dad was in the business, right? And so you got a little bit of kind of nudging from him, I guess, and a little bit of clarity on what the business was like growing up, right?
Well, so my dad had been in mortgage and real estate probably for about 30 years. And so we started off together when we worked. And actually, both my parents were like, "You're crazy. You're going into the mortgage business? You've seen what your dad's been through." But I wanted something where I could control kind of my own future, my freedom of time, and really wanted to be there. I was just getting married and wanted to be there, have time with my family. And one of the things that I saw growing up was the fact that my dad was always able to come to all my soccer games. We were able to go on vacations. He was able to change his schedule to be able to be involved. And that was really what was key for me, is I wanted to be in a profession where I could really put my family first and spend time with them and watch them grow up. And now with having an 11-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, it's been perfect because I can make them kind of the center of the attention and not miss out on those young years.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. So you work in San Diego, California. You're with RWM Home Loans. And, one of the things that I love that we can unveil during our time together is you have, I think compared to most mortgage originators, you have a different kind of business silo that you focus on. You focus on financial planners and CPAs and even estate planning attorneys. And I think that is one of the frontiers that the mortgage lenders need to get to. And so I'm anxious to talk about that. But more importantly, I'd like to start with kind of this epiphany that you've been through. I think last year you closed 50% more volume than you did in 2018. And this year, you're already at last year's volume. And, part of that is a market, but a bigger part of it is, I think, how you are thinking, your mindset as an originator on what does it look like to grow intentionally. And I think everybody would be really blessed if they realize that if I just grew my business every year by 50% and just did that intentionally, I'd have an even better career. So let's start off. Tell us your story. Tell us the epiphany at Mastery, and then
Sure.
Matt and I will get into it with you.
Okay, great. Well, excited to share. Yeah. So, growing up, again, I was not that natural salesperson. I did not have that, ability to go out there and just share and be in front of people and be comfortable doing that. So that was something that I've developed over time. But also growing up, didn't really have a lot of dreams. We weren't taught to really have these big dreams and ideas, and we were really more practical and didn't set a lot of goals. And so when I would go to Sales Mastery or different events, and I've been following you, Todd, since back at the very beginning, 2002, going to different events, and I'd see this and I'd say, well, yeah, they can do that because they're different or because they're in different markets. And I would make excuses as to why they were able to do things. And I felt like as long as I was kind of hitting a certain goal in my mind that I thought was success in my mind, that was good enough, right? And so I didn't give myself the freedom to really dream big and set goals and try to grow to that. So in 2018, we went to the Sales Mastery event here in San Diego, and 2018 was a tough year. I was a partner with 3 other gentlemen in a mortgage company here in San Diego, and one of the partners passed away right in front of me at a soccer game. And so that kind of had a big impact on me in 2018. We had grown very close as friends, and it just was hard for me to set goals at that point in time. But we went to the Sales Mastery, and during the event when you were talking, and one of them in particular was when Cody Hardridge got up and gave the interview Becoming an Elite Originator. And he gave what he said 6 things to kind of unlock the combination. Right? And he went through and he talked about, decide who you must become to get what you want, and focus on how to get what you want instead of thinking who we must become. And so he went through and he just talked about, if you want to hit something, start thinking about who you need to be, what you need to do, what you need to act like. He talked about having that mindset. And so after Sales Mastery, I sat down and I just wrote a list of things that I wanted to accomplish, numbers I wanted to hit, who I wanted to be, spending time with family, those types of things. And for the first time ever, I actually posted it, on Facebook, put it out there for everybody to see, and announced it. And so since then, it's been just exciting to see where my business has gone. Again, that shift, I'd say, probably 90% of this is the shift in mindset, believing that I can accomplish these things, and started reading a lot of books, started reading a lot about, mindset and having that growth mindset. I went back and reread a lot of your books, and just with having that new perspective allowed me to see things in a different light.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And I'm grateful for that. I think that belief and mindset are probably the 2 biggest needle movers. Maybe giving oneself permission to succeed and understanding why you should be excited about success instead of fearful about it. And Matt, as a coach, that mindset is everything. Why don't you give us your kind of interplay on watching Shanne evolve from a mindset standpoint, and from a coaching perspective, what do you see as the value of mindset when it comes to succeeding and growing?
Mindset is everything. When you look at the fact that, we're all born into this life naked, crying, and cold, and we all have we're given these opportunities in life to do certain things. I think that we, for whatever reason, growing up, our familial, position as far as economics and where we are, we have this idea, this cap that we impose on ourselves to say, this is success. This is as high as I can get. Why? Because this is as high as my dad got, or my mom got, or my grandparents got, or my neighbor. And this is it, and yeah, going back, Shanne, to your point, yeah, that person up on stage that's doing $100 million, a year in loans. I mean, that's great for them, and that, they probably deserve that. I don't. And I think changing that mindset around to say, no, you know what? I can be whoever I want to be. I can help as many people as I want to help. I can make a difference in not only the lives of others, but the lives of my family. And for me, watching that shift, Shanne, to where you were able to say, no, I want and can achieve more. I'm going to take the ceiling off of my own mind that says I can't achieve this, and I'm going to go a different direction. And so, mindset is the first thing that we work on, because
it's super important, because the longer you don't activate mindset, and oftentimes mindset is activated by trusting, believing, and doing. And I think what Cody did for you, Shanne, is he gave you kind of permission to think at a higher level. And just since you brought his name up, I mean, when Cody first got exposed to this, he was about 90 loans a year. And now every single year he's funding over 400 loans a year. That's a shift in mindset. And everybody starts, I mean, Matt, to go back to your $100 million producer example, the similarity between that person and any person is it all started with a loan, and then it all started with a second loan, and then it was give yourself permission to succeed. And I think what people do is they don't understand the power of intention. and the intentional approach to succeeding. And Shane, you've obviously done that. You're through it looks like, is this number through May or through June, the year-to-date number?
That was through June.
Yeah, so 26 million or so in volume, 60 units, and that is halfway through the year. That's the exact volume you did last year, and you've got, looks like 26 or 27 loans in the pipeline. So that is, I mean, that's mindset stuff. Let's talk about specifically what you and Matt have worked on, maybe 3 examples that we can start to unpack in 15, 18 minutes or so on what are you doing, what has made the difference. And I think it's important to point out before we go any further is that Shane's got a little bit of an untraditional model than most originators. And I think it's a model that every originator needs to look at. I always had 3 pillars of purchase business. I had my agents and builders. I had my financial planners, CPAs, and third-party partners. And then I had my database. And you have picked a niche, which is financial planners, CPAs, and estate planning attorneys. And you've added some realtors. But what have you been doing? And maybe the 2 things, start with the most important thing that Matt has helped you through coaching do. Because I think this is why we're doing this. We're doing this because we all need a coach. I need a coach. You need a coach. We all need a coach. And Matt's impacted your life greatly. So, and you get all the credit because you've trusted and done. So let's talk about, I think you're really big on scripting. I think you're really big on 5-star service. Start with one of those, and you and Matt have a little dialogue about what's that look like? Sure.
No, so Matt has been, instrumental as far as helping me get the scripting going and get into a place where it feels comfortable for me, normal, really in the interaction I have with my clients or my partners in having that, and like you said, intentionality on what direction I'm going to take, wanting to keep control of the conversation. So one of the things that used to happen all the time is the phone would ring and I would pick it up and the client would just kind of start rattling things off and I would lose control of the conversation right then. And we'd get into talking about rates and products and all those types of things. And one of the things that I worked on with Matt was just learning how to control the conversation, to have that script, to differentiate myself going in as a mortgage advisor and what it was that I was going to do. So now if I get a call and I'm not prepared for it, or I'm in the middle of doing, even if I'm not in the middle of doing something, what I'll do is I'll say to them, I'm just finishing up something. I'd love to talk with you, but I want to make sure I have you have my full attention so I can give you the best service possible. Is it okay if I call you back in about 10 or 15 minutes? And so they'll say yes, and I'll call them back. Now all of a sudden I'm in control of the conversation. I'm able to start off finding out how they found out about me, if they were referred, and then go into my script right then about being a mortgage advisor, being there to help them with their short-term and long-term goals, trying to find out more about their story, asking them the questions instead of them just rattling off a list to me.
Yeah.
That's been the shift between going from on demand to in demand.
Yeah.
And just that whole idea to where you're controlling the conversation. You're the one that is setting the timeframes to when you can be most effective with the client.
Yeah, I think this is huge. And I think everybody needs to understand that there is a distinct relationship between controlling the conversation and actually converting that potential borrower into an asset, into a family that you get to impact. And so oftentimes, Shane, you're so right. The borrowers come pre-thought and oriented around things they want to ask. And most mortgage professionals don't seize control. And you can do it very naturally. If somebody calls you and you start to talk and they want maybe a quote on interest rates or so on and so forth, it's just so natural to say, my whole goal is to help you integrate your mortgage into your long and short-term financial goals. And before we talk about rate and before we talk about product, I want you to know I want to give you the best overall experience and cost of buying real estate. So before we talk about that, and then you just put a question in there, right? And that takes maybe 30 seconds to professionally take the conversation from you being the responder to you being the advisor. And anybody that is wanting to do anything, you know this, Shane, from your estate planning attorneys and financial planners and CPAs, you have to control the conversation because you are the authority. You have to think of yourself as the authority, and you have to think of yourself as the advisor. If you don't control it, they'll control you. And a pipeline full of borrowers that are controlling you is not good.
Right.
So, so Matt, what did you see as a coach on how long did it take Shane to kind of really get the mindset here about controlling the conversation? And then Shane, what has been just describe, after Matt talks for a moment, describe the feeling you have knowing that you are in control. So Matt, how long did it take and what did the coaching process look like?
No, well, you start with, the basics, and, we're working off of implementable ideas every single coaching session that we're structured. The one thing that's great about Shane is coming to these coaching sessions with questions with, okay, Matt, we tried this. I need some tweaks here. I need some tweaks there. But the real shift happened really early on with Shane when, again, we've kind of been talking about this, when his shift happened from being a mortgage lender that sells loans to I am a mortgage strategist who manages real estate assets for my clients. And that shift, and Shane, I'll let you talk about that a little bit, has really been what has moved the needle for you to your 5-star experience, your annual mortgage review, all of these pieces then that are now coming into play for your holistic experience with your clients.
Right. Yeah, I think that when you're in control of the conversation, when you have the scripting, you just have a lot more confidence in the way you're talking. When objections come up, you're able to control those objections. You're able to, handle whatever questions that they have. And instead of feeling like you're an order taker, instead of feeling like you've got to, basically meet the client where they're at, you're able to elevate the conversation to where you need to take the client to do what's best for them, right? Not just answer their questions, but start asking questions of your own where you can really dig in, learn what their needs are, learn what they, are trying to accomplish. And it does take a little bit of time because everyone is programmed initially just to start with, what's the best rate, what's the best this, that, and you've got to start talking to them and finding out what their true needs are. But, I used to come to it when I would either call my clients or take a phone call of feeling like I was, either coming into the conversation, not knowing where it was going to go or how to handle certain objections, or even like I was bothering people if I was calling them, past clients, to now feeling like I am adding value to them because of the fact that I have, more knowledge. I have the scripts memorized, and not just memorized. I've gotten to the point where it's now natural, right? I started off where I had the script out in front of me in a notebook, and I would be basically kind of skimming it as I was saying it. And now I just kind of go naturally with it. And I'll add things here and there and switch it up if I need to. And so it becomes just part of a normal conversation.
I think what's important to point out here along scripting is everybody watching this right now is scripted. I mean, one way or another, you are scripted, and you are either scripted without value and in a negative kind of bent, or you're scripted with value and in a positive kind of bent, but everybody is saying something, right? And so we have to break these chains of habits, and we have to get into controlling, because I think the truth of the matter is mortgage professionals and real estate professionals absolutely control the conversation. And the word control is not negative. It is very positive. We have a fiduciary responsibility as advisors to seize control of a conversation and do it in a really easy professional way. I'd love to talk about interest rates, but before we do, there's some questions I need to ask you to make sure we align you with the right product and the right strategy. I mean, that is just so natural once you get it, right? And then it does lead into 5-star service. It does lead into creating a beautiful borrower experience. And so I'd like to have you unpack a little bit with, how do you dance with this different vertical, financial planners, CPAs, estate planning attorneys? How do you dance with them and do what Matt's talking about, which is advising and helping you make smart choices about real estate assets? I mean, I think that is just, it's so high level. Talk through that a little bit. And Matt, you can jump in anytime you want.
Yeah, I think just with my previous background being more analytical, I just naturally, with financial planners, with estate planners, CPAs, I just was more of a natural fit with them as far as what it is that they're trying to do and integrating that and making sure that we're integrating the loan into the financial goals. And so I've had some great relationships over the years with those, industries. And, same thing, even with the real estate agents that I work with, I tend to gravitate more towards those agents that are more like me as far as the analytical side of things, and have some great relationships there. But being able to, take and put into place a process that we now have with, doing that initial conversation, finding out the needs that they need, making sure that I'm getting an application together before I'm quoting any rates, putting together, some different analysis of loan options, and then doing the pre-purchase consultation or, pre-refinance consultation. And so now I've got a whole presentation I go through, again, where I'm differentiating myself, talking to them about the services I'm going to bring, talking to them about, what's happening in the market, why are things, occurring the way they are, educating them throughout the process. And when they do come into the office, now that you can't do that right now, but in the past and in the future, when they come to the office, we've got a whole, presentation. We put out a name, sign for them when they come in. We've got a drink list. We do all that kind of stuff to kind of elevate the way that we interact with them. And so, and then throughout the process, I started doing where if someone's moving, I send out a moving kit to them with some little things that they can get once a loan's been approved. We've got a great cookie company down here called Cravery Cookies, and we send out a cookie box to them at final approval. When they come to the office, we're taking pictures. So we're just creating a whole different experience with them. We've implemented where we send out a midterm survey and a post-closing survey to everybody and follow up with them that way. So just having, a lot of different touch points, and then having a post-closing call where I explain to them that I'm going to be calling them 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, and then doing a yearly review with them, talking to them about what the process is going to be going forward. A lot of the other little things that I've set up, added benefits that they're going to get over time. And so we just make sure that they understand all of this and see what that difference is compared to the other lender who's just going to quote a rate to them.
Yeah, Shane, what has been the main feedback that you've received from your clients, going from experiences that they've had in the past with, I just got a rate and I closed a transaction, I was done with my house, to I just had an amazing experience with all of these wonderful, gifting processes. I had this collective strategy that was built not only by you, but also by, financial planner, kind of integrating in with the structure of the loan and how that's going to affect their assets. What's been the feedback that you've received from your clients?
So, I think there are those who really appreciate it. They see the value of it. They're, in the reviews that they're leaving me online, they're commenting about it, about how I really, I'm looking out for them, taking care of them. They send me thank yous and texts and, all that kind of stuff. And so, there are those who really cherish that and see the difference. But as we all know, there are some clients who don't see that. But that, I think one of the biggest things that you've taught me, Matt, is that for those that don't see it, it doesn't mean that you change the way you do things, right? You continue to do it because there are those that see the value of it, that are going to, allow you to create those long-term relationships. And so even though you go through all of this, there's going to be some of those clients that you're not going to impress with what you're doing. You're not going to be able to capture. But if we get the right client base, people who do appreciate what you're doing, those are the people that you really want to be working with in the future because they understand the importance of what you're bringing.
Yeah. And I am so proud of just seeing all these little subtleties that you put into play and creating kind of the whole environment. And, I'm guessing that probably I was talking with a student of ours in Australia a couple of days ago, and he was talking about, that if he had to make a decision, he would always opt for creating a more emotional experience with his clients, because people buy emotionally and then they justify logically. And this guy's a top producer, and the experience is what unleashes emotional connection. And it doesn't happen easily, but it happens when I think people make a shift in their mindset. And Matt, you could unpack this a little bit, but the mindset about achieving is one thing. The mindset about connecting is another thing. And I would imagine that just by stereotypical kind of standards, that those that have proclivities to being a little bit more analytical, to use your own word, Shane, this is a big leap to go from analytical, which is really solid because you can provide authoritative advice, right, to also connecting. And at the end of the day, it's all about that. It's all about value and connecting. And if you don't do that, you don't have clients for life. And to see and hear what you go through, and the mid process, and the pre-closing, the post-closing, the whole client experience. I mean, those are all best practices, right? And I think what happens is people, even though they come into a mortgage transaction usually thinking about the numbers, they leave a closing usually thinking about the experience. And I think that's the main thing we're trying to get across here right now. I would encourage everybody watching this edition of Coffee with Todd to really study your customer experience. At Mastery this year, we're going to have an entire panel on how to transform the consumer experience. And I don't know about you, Shane, but there's probably still stuff you could do to make it even better, just like I know there's stuff we could do to make things even better. But you're better today than you were last year because you have taken the advice of Matt and done this. So I love this. I love it, love it, love it. So let me ask this question. Talk about how you've built the financial planner, CPA, estate planner vertical, because I really think I've always believed that vertical is a huge vertical. I think you have higher conversion. I think you have more endorsed value coming in from those professionals. What's the relationship look like with that vertical?
So in a lot of ways, it's just like when you're going out there and building relationships with real estate agents. It's going to, I think I started with a handful of financial planners going back, 10, 15 years ago, and just building that, putting into place, talking to them about doing the annual reviews with their clients, talking to them about the value and how we integrate these things. And really, you're talking the same language, as you're doing mortgage planning, talking the same language as what planners are doing, and just getting them to understand that the mortgage is part of that. Sometimes they get that, sometimes they don't. So educating them throughout that process. But then from there, talking with your clients, finding out maybe if they've got a good financial planner that they're working with, and then being able to introduce yourself. Again, I think it was a Sales Mastery in 2018. We had someone get up and talk about how once they have a client who has a financial planner, they send out a very simple email to that financial planner and talk to them about introducing them. And I did that right afterwards, and I got a meeting with the financial planner, right? So it was just, again, implementing, sending that out, and having that opportunity. And then when you have a good financial planner, I have a great person I've been working with for a number of years. And just a couple of years ago, I asked him, I said, well, who are some good estate attorneys and CPAs that you work with? And he gave me a couple of names. And I went and I met with a couple of them. And one estate attorney I met with, she was so impressed with the way that I do business differently that she said, you know what? I need to do a refinance. I'd love to do it with you and see how the transaction goes. So did the refinance with her. And then as soon as that was done, she referred me 6-7 clients, just kind of right after. So again, it's those certain relationships that if you can find those relationships where they really get it, they're going to be a great source for you in the future.
Yeah, I love what I love what you've just said, and I think it's interesting. Jennifer Kraus just commented, scripting as part of high trust sales takes your business from one size fits all to tailoring it. It's a whole different level when you custom tailor the borrower experience. I love that. Hope, who's our divisional president of high trust coaching, just wanted to post a question, and it's to both you and Matt. How long did it take in terms of getting comfortable with the conversation, controlling the conversation? I mean, how much role playing did you do with your coach? You talked about the notebook of scripts, and now they're right up here. How long did that take, Matt, from your perspective, and Shane, yours, to start feeling really good about the words and the verbiage?
Well, you come from Sales Mastery with a bunch of ideas. You go to High Trust Sales Academy with 300 plus implementable ideas that you can run with, and hundreds of pages of scripts.
Yeah.
And you come away from that going, where do I start?
Right.
And I think one of the great things about what we do and what we're passionate about is teaching the flow, how to really talk to your client or your strategic partner or whatever it happens to be, or even your family, your wife, your spouse. These are not just sales techniques. These are relationship building foundation techniques that we use in our lives to be able to communicate. And so I guess the easy answer to that is it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
We are constantly, continually modifying, changing, just adapting a little bit here and there to different situations. And again, we start basic and we continue to kind of progress and we work our way down the line. But this isn't something that you just learn and, yeah, I got it. I memorized the book. I'm good to go.
Right.
This is a continual progression of learning.
What's your discipline around scripting and like when you first got going with it, Shane, and now, what do you do to constantly improve what you say?
So what I did, Matt and I would have great conversations on the phone during our coaching calls, and he would go through and he'd say, here's the scripting I use, and we would kind of go back and forth. And I actually downloaded an app on my phone so that I could record the calls so that I could be able to play back the scripting. And then what I would do is I would listen to it, I'd write it all out so I could have it all, there. And then I kind of put it into my own words. And then I would use that and I would go through it. And again, I'd have someone in my office that I would do some scripting with. Matt told me about how he would, when he first started going, he would come to the office an hour early in the morning and work on his scripting. And, I've done that some, not enough. I need to continue doing that. But it's getting to a point where you're comfortable with what you're saying. You can actually take portions of the script and move them around when it's appropriate based on the conversation, because it's not always going to go exactly the way that you have it scripted. And I think that's one of the things that I really learned over time is you've got to be comfortable enough with it that you can do that, because I would start off with a conversation and say, well, wait, it's not going the direction that I thought it would go. And I would get stumped a little bit and getting to the point where I could then learn the different portions of the script and move them around and be able to answer the objections. And that's, again, just a continuing thing. We're always talking about new objections that come up or new ways to handle things on our calls.
Yeah. Hope just inputted discipline equals mastery. I kind of like that. And life, life at a level of greatness, business at a level of greatness is constant dial turning. It's constant modification. And the whole goal is just to get better and better and better and better. And you've been in coaching for going on 3 years now?
It's going to be 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what would you say to everybody that right now, they're having a great year, and maybe they need to do something differently to ensure that next year they don't go the other way? What has coaching meant to you? How have you dollarized it? And talk just about your experience as a human being as a result of having Matt in your life and high trust coaching.
Right. No, it's been amazing. It's been someone where you can go to them when you have questions, when you have, last week when we had our conversation, I told him, I said, Matt, I had a really difficult week this last week. I lost a couple of deals and this happened. And he was just able to kind of walk me through it and get me to understand that, you can't just focus on one particular deal. You've got to focus on the direction of your business as a whole. What can you learn from it? What can we change from it? So through this whole, situation with the COVID and everything, just having someone that you can go to, you can trust, that you can have that conversation with has been great. He's helped me start building my team. There's no way I could be doing the numbers that I'm doing without having, an assistant that I've been working with, and having that confidence to bring on someone onto the team, and being with a company who's willing to help me grow a team has been huge over this time. But as far as dollarizing it, I mean, you can look at my numbers just from the last couple of years to see what's happened. I mean, each year it's been at least a 50% increase. So by far it's covered the cost of the coaching, and allowed me to not only grow my business, but at the same time do it in a way where, if you remember at the very beginning of the call, I said my focus was being able to spend time with my wife and my kids. And I'm doing volume that I never thought I'd be able to do. And yet I'm still going home at 5:30 at night. I'm still spending time with my kids. I'm still taking them to their soccer practices. I'm doing the things that are important to me. And the business isn't driving me crazy with the volume that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Matt, your final thoughts on just the joy you get as a coach watching guys like Shanne take this seriously and really make stuff happen?
Oh man, this is why we do what we do. This is why High Trust is the company that it is. This is a family to us. That this is about watching success, and again, Shanne, you hit it. This is about life. This goes back to your core goal of saying, I want to spend more time with my wife and my child. I want to have more time for, the things that I'm passionate about and to do in my life to make a difference. And, we really focus in on that. And that's what brings so much joy, is we're saying, okay, we can build you as a person, and as far as who you are. We're going to have a lot of fun along the way. We're going to build your ability to do more loans and create more relationships. But this is why we do what we do, Todd. We love watching, the people that we're able to help in some small way, make a huge difference in their own lives.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. Shanne, if you had one do-over in 18 years, what would the one do-over be?
I think the biggest thing would just be, getting to that point earlier on in my career of having that mindset of feeling like I could do it, and understanding what would do that. And really, I guess probably even getting into the coaching even earlier, because that was one of the things that really helped me propel my business.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Well, I want to say to everybody that chimes in on all our live platforms and streaming platforms, thank you for watching Coffee with Todd. Thanks for being in our ecosystem. Just got a ping from Jay Dava. He says, thanks for the continual coffee break. Always learning something. That's the attitude of greatness, always learning something. And I love the fact that we get together and get to do this. So we're going to not come back on Thursday. We do have a live coaching session tomorrow. And Thursday, we're going to take that day off and give everybody the 4th of July weekend. We'll be back with you next Tuesday. After 4th of July, we wish you a safe, healthy, and joyful weekend. Celebrate the new definition, I guess, of freedom while we continue to kind of roll through this COVID thing, and just look forward to the joy and the abundance that can come to you from doing the business well and living life intentionally. Shanne, thank you so much. It was great to have you on today. And Matt, thank you. All right, guys, over and out. See ya.